Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining for the basics of estate planning. My name is Jada. I work with a company called FreeWill. We will get into the specifics of that. But firstly, I just want to thank you for spending some time to get smart about estate planning, to realize it's really not as, boring or complex as maybe you think it is. And we're going to cover why that is, what exactly estate planning means, and a few free resources that you all are able to utilize to make sure that you have a basic plan in place. So again, I'll do a quick introduction of myself. We will introduce FreeWill, my company, and talk through why estate planning is so important. Not just for wealthy folks or for people who are, in their older age, but for everyone, whether or not you think you have an estate. We'll also talk about what's included in an estate plan and how you guys can easily set up something very simple that meets your needs. And then we'll share a few free resources that are available to you guys because of the wonderful team at CurePSP. So first, a little about me. My name is Jada Gale. I'm a senior partner success strategist here at FreeWill. And that essentially means that my job is to make sure that we are providing estate planning tools and resources that are useful and easy and simple to use, and that CurePSP and other partner organizations that we work with have all of the knowledge and background needed to be able to provide that to you guys and to support you through the utilization. Outside of work, I do have a dog. Her name is Luna. She is 7 years old, so she is that perfect age of, not quite a puppy, but still very youthful and active. I am unmarried, so I do not have a spouse. I do not own a home. And all this is just to kind of share with you why I still have an estate plan in place, even though I don't have a lot of these specific milestones met just yet. Family is also very important to me. So I have a pretty large family. I do have 3 nephews, 1 niece, and 1 niece on the way who will be here, any day now. While I don't have any children of my own, I care a lot about my family and my extended family. So these are all just going to kind of feed into the reasons why I want to make sure that I have an estate plan in place, even though, ideally I won't need it for another 50, 60 years. So I work for FreeWill, and you may or may not have heard of FreeWill in the past. But essentially what FreeWill does is builds technology. So we build online technology to make estate planning really easy, but also really accessible. It's 100% free, so there are no strings attached. We will never ask you for payment info. It is completely free thanks to folks like CurePSP who have made it available to you guys. To date, we have had more than 280,000 plans created in the United States. So a lot of people who don't have estate plans out there who have used FreeWill as a viable and completely legally valid option to put those plans into place. Similarly, and much to our pride, folks really like our software and they really like the service. They think it's easy, they think it's quick, but more so, I hope they know that we care enough to put time and dedication into making it as good as it can be. We do have 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot. So if you like to review things or see reviews before you utilize an online service, definitely check us out there. But all that is to say that, we are a trustworthy source. We have been doing this for quite some time now. And the reason why we provide estate planning, I think, is really important because, businesses create a product or a business model for all kinds of different reasons. And so our big driving factor here is that 70% of American adults don't have an estate plan in place. 70% of American adults. That means there are a lot of you probably listening to this right now, and you all do not have an estate plan of any kind in place, or it's outdated. A couple of common reasons why that can be the case is that it's kind of scary to think about. We don't want to think about putting plans into place for the end of our life, and that is completely human and completely natural. Um, but it's also kind of scary to walk into an attorney's office and sit down and feel like you are in this professional environment sometimes, where you have to make really, really important decisions that are really emotional oftentimes. Um, it can also feel like it's complicated. So having to figure out exactly what you need to do, exactly what documents you need and steps you need to take, kind of navigating some of the jargon, like revocable living trusts and all of that stuff that we're going to cover today. It's really complicated, or it can be at least. And the third is that estate planning is traditionally pretty expensive. If you're looking to create a basic will, you have maybe a small house, one car, no complex like family dynamics. You're looking at, right around $500 or so to create an estate plan, depending on, which attorney you utilize, and where you are located. And so a lot of Americans just don't have that kind of equal access to law, or that luxury of being able to waltz into an attorney's office and pay for an estate plan. But I think most importantly, it feels like something we can put off. It feels like something that we don't have to think about yet. And so we will continue to back burner it year after year. We'll say, hey, my resolution this year is to get all of my finances and my estate in place. And then we'll let the year pass, and then we will come back to it next year and we'll say the same exact thing. And coming from myself, who is a young adult, I completely understand that. I again hope to have 50 years left before I need to actually have this plan. But I went ahead and did it anyways, and we'll get into that. But we want to make it easy because we don't want it to be scary, we don't want it to be complicated, and we don't want it to be expensive. This is something that we want you to be able to do in your living room, hypothetically, when you are surrounded by loved ones and you are making these important decisions in a place that's comfortable and free. What estate planning should be, and the way that we here at FreeWill view it, is that it's truly an act of care for the people that you love. So having a plan in place says, I care about you enough that I want to make sure that you are taken care of. And that if anything were to happen, you know how much I care about you, and you have this plan that I so thoughtfully devised. It is also a lot easier for people, when someone passes away, the executor of an estate, there's a lot of burden, or a lot of emotional toll that also goes into reconciling an estate and figuring out all those final plans. And a will or a trust or something that is very like directive and tells people what your wishes are saves them from having to do a lot of that like emotional digging and kind of being in a spot where it's a little tolling for them to figure it all out. It's a way to make your wishes and values super clear. So not only is a will a way to take care of the people that you love, but it's also a way to kind of proclaim what the most important things in your life are. And maybe that is, sending money to your church. Maybe that is leaving a legacy by sending a gift to a humane society where you adopted your dog. Maybe that is creating a scholarship fund, at an institution that you hold near and dear to your heart. These are all things that you can do in your will, and it's all about making your wishes and your values clear, as well as making your legacy known. So thinking like, what do I want my legacy to be, and how can I make sure that that is voiced and proclaimed in my estate plan and my final documents. So we're going to talk about two pretty critical pieces of an estate plan. And these are typically the first like two important steps that you need to take when you're thinking about creating that plan. First is going to be a last will and testament. We've all heard of the will. You probably see things online occasionally or in the news about celebrities passing away without a will. We know this is an important piece of the plan, but it's not the end all be all, right? So it doesn't necessarily cover everything, but it's going to cover, probably 80% of your wishes. And so it's going to account for most of all of your physical or like monetary portions of your estate. So it's important for anyone to have, regardless of estate size. Again, when we say estate, you might think like, oh, I don't have an estate. I don't have a big castle in France, or some, rolling acreage that I need to allocate to my children. An estate is just, the culmination of your property. So that could be anything from, family photos. It could be other family heirlooms, so like furniture, jewelry, things that you want to make sure are passed down to future generations. It could be a car, it could be a house, it could be any number of things. You can write anything into your will that's like a specific item and make sure that you get to pick who that is going to. So that's the importance of a will. Our will tool also allows you to create your funeral wishes, which is a very important thing. So what do you want your funeral to look like if you want to think about that? Completely optional, but the option is there for you to get that like foundational estate plan into place. Within the last will and testament tool, for our California users, so if you're located in the state of California, we also offer a revocable living trust because you guys have some pretty complex and expensive probate laws out there. So a trust can sometimes be a better way for you to navigate California's legal system. And so we do offer that, but solely for our California residents. And I will show you when we review the tool how you guys can access that as well. The second piece here is an advanced healthcare directive. This is sometimes known as a living will, an advanced directive, or a medical directive. And this is a legally binding document that specifies what you want when it comes to your healthcare. So if you are ever in a position in which you cannot make those decisions for yourself, or if you have strong feelings around life support or induced comas or anything like that, we want to make sure that you have a legal avenue to say, here are my values, here are my wishes, here's what I do and don't want to undergo. And you have to respect that. Your medical team, the executor of that has to respect that. And so that's another important piece for your estate plan if your healthcare or having specific wishes voiced is important to you. It is not mandatory, but it is a really nice addition that I'm going to show you today. So how FreeWill and CurePSP work together. Because of this amazing partnership that we have, you guys have access to free estate planning tools that are going to let us do both of those things I just mentioned. So you can create your will. It typically takes our users about 20 minutes, sometimes less. And it can be your fully legally valid will. We'll give you clear steps on how to validate that and finalize it, get it witnessed, all that good stuff. You can also create your advanced healthcare directive, and that average use time is about 15 minutes. So really simple. We just created these online platforms where you go through, you answer some really basic questions, and then voila, we do all the back end legal work to make sure that you have a document that fits your needs. If you know that you would rather see an attorney for either of these documents, you can use FreeWill as kind of like a pilot ground. So you can use any of these tools and you don't have to make them legally valid. You can go through with the will tool. It's called a documented set of wishes. And that'll just show you basically like a framework of what you want to take to your attorney. I want this item to go to my son. I want this item to go to my brother. You can kind of map it all out in your mind before you go to the attorney's office. And that will not only save you some brain space when you're there to really like focus on specifics, it'll also save you some money because most attorneys are billing per hour. And so having that all mapped out before you get into the office is a really advantageous thing. And then you can also plan your beneficiary designations, which we'll talk a little bit more about after I show you these first couple of tools. But beneficiary designations are going to be kind of that third final step of a basic estate plan that we'll talk through. So let's go ahead and jump into CurePSP's FreeWill website. So it's just freewill.com/CurePSP. And you'll see right away that you get a little pop-up here, and it's going to ask you for your email address. And I'm going to go ahead and just put in some phony Jane Doe info here so that you can see the genuine process as if I were a new user. So we are in the last will and testament tool. There is a timeline progress bar here. So you'll see these are the different stages of the will that we're going to need to undergo. It will update as you move on to the next stage. Again, we're looking at 20 minutes here if you want to put an estate plan into place. We also have multiple profiles. So, you know, I am logged in to my account here, but if you have a spouse or a loved one that you want to kind of do this in tandem with, you can create multiple profiles under the same email address, which is a really nice feature here. I'm going to go in and put gender, my birth date, so May 17th, we'll say 1932 for now, phone number, and address. So all very basic contact information. The other thing that I will note here is that FreeWill has these little question marks throughout the process. So if you have any questions about why we are asking for certain info or what you should consider to put in that field, click the little question mark, and it's meant to help you just think through the process a little bit more clearly. We will also update, you know, marital status. So I kind of lied here and said that I am married. We'll put in John Doe as my spouse. And then we're going to ask you what the approximate value of your assets are. So this includes all real estate, financial accounts, personal items. And you can see these are pretty big ranges because it's probably a really daunting question. We're asking you to think through like, how much is all of your stuff worth? And you can really quickly and easily say, I fit into this range, whereas you may not be able to quickly and easily say it's like X amount. And so we go with ranges here just to make it a little easier on you guys. Information about children, I'll go ahead and put in yes, because about 75% of our users do have children. The full name of those children. So this is just going to be so that you can easily populate them later on in the future and name them appropriately in the will. And then whether or not they're under the age of 18, if you click yes, there's just going to be some extra stuff you need to do around legal guardians. So if you were to pass away while they were under the age of 18. This is my favorite section because I share that I have a dog named Luna. This is where I will input pet caretakers. So, you know, who's going to provide for this pet? Who do I want to take over? If you don't have any pets, you just click no here. Put in the type of animal, just to make it a little easier on your executor if they're not, you know, personally close with your animals. You can leave specific monetary amounts that go to your pet's care. This is not legally binding for the pet's care. I want to make that super clear. But it does allow you to go in and say, hey, to my sister who's taking care of these animals, I'm going to give you $10,000 just, you know, for the trouble of doing this and to make sure that like they always have food, they always have everything they need supplied. So you can do that if you wish, you do not have to. And then you put in order of preference, you know, who will be responsible for taking care of these pets. So let's just say Jenny Doe here. And she is my sibling. We also need to put in, you know, executor designations. So who's going to be responsible for actually upholding and fulfilling the wishes that you've spelled out in your will here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in that these are friends, cousins. Typically, an executor needs to be someone who's not listed in the will as the recipient of a gift or an item. So we have some help text here that will tell you like who you should be picking, what responsibilities that person will have. And then we also have to name digital executors. So, you have all of these online passwords and logins and accounts, and someone has to do something with those at the time that you pass away. And so making sure that either you do or don't want your executor to be that same person, you can just, designate that here. And then we're going to ask you about the residual estate. So like what's going to be left over at the very end after you have specifically said you want certain amounts to go to your loved ones. We do feature CurePSP here. You do not have to leave a gift to CurePSP to utilize this website. Obviously, they are an organization that so many people hold dear that we wanted to make that option available. So if you do want to do that, you can just give a small portion of your estate here or a large portion, totally up to you guys. Or you can give nothing at all by just clicking no thanks here. CurePSP will not see that you utilize this and did not leave a gift to them. I want to make that super clear. This is a resource that's meant to be available to everyone, regardless of what your giving patterns look like. I'm just going to put in a fake gift here for CurePSP, so 5% of my residual estate. And then you can choose to use or to give other gifts if you would like to do that. We populate a few like pretty popular organizations here. You can also choose to give to a different organization. So if you want to give to, say, your local church, you probably don't know the EIN. If you want to get it, you can put that in, make it a little more legally sound. And then you would put in all of their contact info. And you can leave a little message as well, which is a really nice touch to be able to tell people how thankful you are for them and how impactful their work has been. We are now going to look at the primary beneficiaries of that estate. So we just gave, 5% to charity, 5% to CurePSP, 5% to my local church. And now we're going to look at all those other specifics that we might want to put in. So if you have children, the most common thing to do is to either leave the rest to your spouse, if you have a spouse, or to split it evenly among your children, or else to their descendants, if for some reason one of them or all of them are not able to accept that gift. So you can do either of those two like very popular options, or you can create a custom plan. So maybe it's not a spouse or a child, maybe you want to give to someone else, maybe you want to like change up the percentages. You can do that here by just putting in the person or the additional charities and selecting the percentages that you would like to give to them. Now we're going to set secondary beneficiaries. So this is going to be, if your primary beneficiary is not able to receive that gift, who would you like it to go to? And a common thing to do here is to leave to charity. So, hey, I want to give to my family. If someone in my family is not able to accept that gift, then just give it to charity. So we're going to do that. You can also create a custom plan, again, if you want to like add different people or organizations. So let's say we want to give to World Wildlife Fund. And we want to give them 100% if no one else can take it. Oh. And it looks like we're having a little issue there. So I'm just going to skip that for now so I can save you guys a little bit of trouble. And we're going to go with John Doe as that secondary beneficiary. This is when we will look at the summary and just make sure it all feels right. So in plain English, split it evenly amongst our children, else to their descendants. Contingent beneficiaries say, if not to my children or their descendants, then 100% goes to John Doe. So that gives you 3 layers of support, right? So you have your children, you have their descendants next in line, and then you have John Doe, who's third in line. We then are going to look at any specific gifts that you might have. So if there's specific property or, again, those family heirlooms, anything that you might want to pass along to a specific individual, you can do that. I have an example in here of a house that I own in New York, and I have it split evenly among the children or else to their descendants. So you can add as much property as you want. It can be as big or as small as you want. There's really no limit here. And then you get the option to take care of your funeral wishes. So as I mentioned a bit earlier on, a funeral is really important to a lot of people. And some people have very strong wishes for what they do or don't want for their funeral. So this will allow you to go in and put in your overall wishes. So you can just kind of type out what you would hope happens here. And then you can put in wishes for your final resting place if that's important to you. You can choose for people to send donations to charity in lieu of flowers. That's a really common thing that you all have probably done for other individuals. And then you name someone who's responsible for carrying out these wishes. And I want to be really clear here again in that funeral wishes are not legally binding. This is going to be a document that is separate from your will. And I have no doubt that this person who you name here that's responsible for carrying these out will 100% make sure that this all happens. But it's not a legally binding document, so there's no legal repercussion if every need here is not met. And now we have what we call the provisions section. So you can see we are almost done up here. We have the provision section, which allows you to add on these little extras if you would like. So a no contest clause, again, going to click those little question marks that help us out here. That means that you might have someone in your life who is challenging, or you think will challenge your will or your end of life wishes. And you can put a very clear clause in that says this person cannot contest, or no one can contest this will. I am double confirming that it is completely valid and that these are my wishes. You will also choose if you want to share the information of who you are with those nonprofits that you just chose to give to. And CurePSP will be, notified. We will say, hey, so-and-so has chosen to share with you that they've left a gift for, X percentage or X amounts. That is completely up to you guys, what we share. But this is the question where you will choose if you want to help their team out by sharing that info or if you want to remain anonymous. You can also add a self-proving affidavit. So this is something that says, I am who I say I am. I am going to go ahead and double confirm this using a notary. So this can just kind of make things a little easier if you do, again, have someone who comes up and says, hey, this could have been a fake will or something of that nature. And then you can make it extra airtight by adding a third witness. All of these wills are going to be state by state specific. And so most of them only require 2 witnesses. And only one state in the US requires a notary. So depending on your state, your needs might be different here, but we always give the option to add a third witness to make it extra airtight, that this is genuine, that you wrote it, and that there were 3 people in the room with you when you signed it. And then again, this is that state specific stuff. And it is going to raise that some states allow people to, finalize a will and execute it without court supervision. And so you can give permission for that to be the case if your state applies there. Or you can say nothing, which means that just kind of the natural course of things will play out. We do ask some other questions here around life insurance. So another super important part of estate planning is going to be having life insurance. This is truly so that we can get a gauge of how many folks in the US are actively have life insurance policies, how many do not, and would it be worthwhile or helpful for us to build out things that make that process easier or make it a bit more seamless for users like you guys. What we're getting close to the end here, I promise. The disinheritance clause means, one or more of your direct heirs was left out of your will that you listed. And so it'll always kind of confirm with you that you intended to disinherit this person, that you want to make that decision actively as opposed to it maybe being a mistake or you accidentally left someone out. So we will always just flag that and raise it as something that you need to review. And then you can then finally attach this personal statement. So this is an area in which you would kind of write out if you have like spiritual beliefs, if you have something that you just want people to know about your legacy, something that you want to just pass on. This will be attached to your will document. And it is entirely just a personal statement where you can voice whatever you want to voice and just leave whatever notes or life experience that you'd like to share with next generation. We are now going to just do a quick review. So does all of this look good? Yes, it does. Children, pets, all those gifts. And then save and continue. I want to ask you if you want to see your will outright, which is what you would do if you were using FreeWill to actually create that document. If you want to review your wishes with a lawyer, again, we will make that documented set of wishes for you, which is essentially just a list of everything that you just put in to take to your attorney. And then if you're not sure, you click here and we'll help you kind of weigh that decision based on some reasons why people might prefer to see an attorney versus not. I'm going to go ahead and click that I'd like to see my will so that I can show you guys. And you'll have the option here to either download or email the documents to yourself. I'll go ahead and download so that we can kind of do a quick review together. So we are going to give you, page number 1 will be very specific instructions. So read, sign, keep safe, update. And then we will get into the actual legal document and it will be populated with all of the info that you guys just put in here. There's a lot of legal language within, so we always recommend reading it very, very diligently just to make sure it is completely what you want before signing it. And that's it. It's super easy. The next step here would be number 1, notifying those nominees. So we want to make sure that executor and everyone in your life has a heads up that they are going to be in that role and that they know what it entails and what to do. We also want you to keep planning ahead. So this is where we're going to go to access that advanced healthcare directive or the living will. And then again, if you prefer to see an attorney, you can go ahead and just download there or find an attorney on the American Bar Association's website. So I'm now looking at my FreeWill account, and there are a lot of things that are available to me. So this is where I'm going to find the living will or advanced healthcare directive. And I'm just going to click start here. And it's super simple. It allows you to, again, share your values, your wishes for what your healthcare will look like. So we're going to populate a lot of the same info because we already did that. We already did that for the will. We're going to put in primary care physician. and then alternate physician. So we just need to make sure that like, hey, if you are having an emergency, you can't make the call for yourself, your primary physician is not able to make that call, who will you go to next? Or do you have a backup that you'd like to be in place? So I'm going to go ahead and put in, let's give them the same last name. Why not? And it looks like they are next door neighbors as well. You can put in designated hospital. So if you know that you'd like to have care at a specific hospital, you can do that, or you can hit no thanks. And then you're going to put in your agent. So this is essentially the person who is responsible for making sure that these wishes are carried out, and who will be the person to make calls on healthcare decisions if you can't do that. So I'm going to put, let's say it's my sister. And then you can select when they should be able to make decisions on your behalf. You can say right after I sign this form, I want them to have that call. Only after my decision determines that I cannot make my own decisions. And so that'll be obviously a case-by-case basis. And then on a certain date that I will specify. So if you know that there's a date approaching, then you can set that specifically. This allows you to set up, those secondary folks. So if your first agent can't act, or like they're not around, or they, for whatever reason, cannot be involved, who would you like to be that alternate? Again, you can skip if you don't want to do that. Also important is that you can designate who cannot make healthcare decisions for you. So this is super important because you don't want just anyone to be able to make those calls. So if there's anyone that you do not want to be able to make those calls, just make it super clear here so that it's not even a question. And then you're going to go ahead and fill out how you feel about end of life care. So what's important to you, what is not important to you. And these questions will help kind of guide us through the ultimate plan or solution for you. You can also skip anything that you do not want to answer. You can also put in what matters most to you, so that that person can make sure that in your care, maybe you're getting lots of visits from family, you're getting time or released, as soon as possible, so that you can go spend time with family if that's something that's extremely important. And then if you were having a good day, what you would be doing, so that they know, a little bit more about you and what your wishes and desires are, so that they can use those to guide the activities or the availability of certain resources or things throughout the time of your healthcare. You can also input certain religious or spiritual needs here. And that's, again, an open type form. So if you feel very strongly that your religion prohibits things like life support or the opposite, there is a space for you to be able to share those wishes. This is a little bit more directive. So you can choose which life prolonging practices that you want to partake in or do not. You can also specify, do you want to be home during end of life care? Do you want to be in the hospital? Do you want to be, with a family member? whatever it is that makes you the most comfortable or that you think will, when those days come, you can spell all of that out here to make sure it's taken care of. What do you want to be done with your body? We all pass away, and following that, people have to make decisions on, autopsies or organ donations, things like that. And so we want to make sure that those are very, very clear. You can also say, I'm kind of in the middle, and under specific circumstances, I would be okay with this. And then I can outline those here just to make sure it's really clear. And we do the same thing for organ donation. And you're going to check, which groups this fits into. And then just a blanket, any other wishes. If there's anything else that's on your mind, this is the space to put it in to make sure that people around you and people who are providing your healthcare know that this is important to you. And then just like anything else, we'll review it. We will make edits if we feel we need to do that. And then we'll download it. And we will give you those clear, detailed instructions again on how to make this legally valid. So in this case, finding 2 witnesses. And this is your declaration. And again, this can be called a living will. It can be called an advanced healthcare directive. But it's all the same kind of document, just outlining your wishes. So those are the 2 kind of first steps that we recommend people take when it comes to estate planning. The third step here will be setting your beneficiaries. So you've done all of the groundwork with those first 2 steps to say, here are my values, here are my wishes, here's who I want to get what. But one thing that people don't often know is that there are things called non-probate assets, which means they're assets that aren't covered in your will because they're covered by their own process for gifting those or for sharing who receives those upon a death. And that process can be typically held by like the account custodian or brokerage. And that's going to include things like an independent retirement account or IRA, 401ks, pensions, bank or brokerage accounts, life insurance policies, anything that you are doing through either a financial or like insurance institution is typically going to need to have its own beneficiary set because that will kind of override anything that is set in the will. So we also have a tool for you guys that allows you to do that very easily. So allows you to plan out who you want those beneficiaries to be. And we recommend this as kind of like the third and final step to having a pretty like complete basic estate plan in place, because it just ensures that, that life insurance policy that your company told you they have to take out for you back when you started 5 years ago. Do you even remember who those beneficiaries were that you set? Is that still relevant? Can you like think through all of those and make sure that you just have a plan in place for where those things are going? And so CurePSP also makes available to you guys another tool that allows you to do that pretty seamlessly. I'm not going to walk us through that in detail today, but know that it is available. We will share all of these resources with you after today, and you will have access to all of these online tools to hopefully make estate planning a lot easier on you and your loved ones. The last thing that I want to say here is that FreeWill is always available to you guys for support. Sometimes doing stuff like this online can be a little bit tricky. And so we have help at FreeWill available. We want to make sure it's available 7 days a week, typically between 9 and 5 Eastern time. And we want to make sure that you guys feel super confident and comfortable in utilizing these tools to put a plan into place. We also have a very robust help center. So if you want to click around, it is linked here. Our help center allows you to answer like frequently asked questions and see kind of what other people are asking or talking about, just to make sure that you're getting the best support possible. You can also feel free to reach out to any of the folks at CurePSP. They will put you in touch with the right people to make sure that you're comfortable using these and that you have all the info you need to take advantage.